The sun had barely risen when Alex stood in front of the small mirror hanging on his bedroom wall. His reflection looked nervous but hopeful. It was his first day at his new job, something he had been praying for after months of rejection letters and temporary work. His shirt was clean but old, the collar slightly faded. His jacket didn't quite fit around the shoulders anymore, and the shoes had been polished so many times that the leather had started to lose its shine. But to him it didn't matter. It was all he had, and he wore it with quiet pride. He took one last look at the clock before stepping out. The bus ride to the company's office took almost an hour, but he didn't mind. He sat by the window watching people rush to work, feeling both nervous and grateful. He had promised himself that no matter what happened, he would give his best. He wanted to prove that even someone with limited means could still work with honesty and passion. When the bus stopped in front of the tall glass building, Alex took a deep breath. The company looked much bigger in person than it did in the pictures. People in neat suits walked past him, holding coffee cups and talking on phones. He straightened his jacket and walked through the entrance, trying to hide the small tremble in his hands. He was early, just as he had planned. At the front desk, he greeted the receptionist with a smile. She gave him a brief nod and handed him a visitor's tag. As he entered the office floor, he could feel a few eyes turn toward him. The room was filled with bright lights and quiet chatter. Most of the employees were dressed in brand new suits, the kind that fit perfectly. Their shoes made sharp sounds on the floor. For a moment, Alex felt out of place, but he quickly reminded himself why he was there: to work, not to impress anyone. He found his desk, a small spot near the corner, and began arranging his things. A few people nearby looked at him and whispered to each other. He tried not to notice, but their laughter wasn't exactly quiet. One of them made a comment under his breath, something about the thrift store collection. Alex pretended not to hear and focused on turning on his computer. A few minutes later, the manager walked in. His name was Mr. Reed. He was a tall man in an expensive suit, carrying himself with the kind of confidence that made everyone stand up straighter. As he walked past each desk, employees greeted him politely. When he reached Alex's desk, his steps slowed down. He looked at Alex for a few seconds, his eyes scanning him from head to toe. Then with a smirk, he said, "That's quite a look you've got there. Trying to bring vintage back into fashion?" The people around laughed. It wasn't a kind laugh, it was sharp and uncomfortable. Alex's face turned slightly red, but he forced a smile. "Just doing my best, sir," he said quietly. Mr. Reed gave a short chuckle and walked away. The laughter faded, but the sting stayed. Alex felt small, almost invisible. He wanted to disappear, but instead he kept his head down and started working. He reminded himself that respect isn't something given easily. It's something you earn through time. The rest of the morning went by slowly. He was given small tasks to complete: updating files, entering data, organizing folders. They were simple jobs, but he made sure to do them carefully. He noticed that the company's internal system was messy. Documents were misplaced, reports had errors, and communication between departments was confusing. It wasn't his job to fix those things, but he couldn't help thinking about how things could run smoother. When lunchtime came, he sat alone in the break room with his homemade sandwich. A few people walked in, chatting and laughing. He could hear parts of their conversation, mostly about shopping, weekend plans, and things he couldn't relate to. He kept his eyes on his food, but then a woman named Linda sat down across from him. She had seen how the manager spoke to him earlier and felt bad. "You handled that well," she said softly. Most people would have snapped back. Alex gave a small smile. "No point in arguing. I'm here to work, not to fight," she nodded. "You'll get used to this place. It's not all bad, though some people forget where they came from." Her kindness made the day feel a little lighter. They talked for a few minutes about work and life before she left. For the first time that day, Alex felt like maybe he wasn't completely alone. The afternoon brought more small tasks. A few coworkers continued to make quiet jokes behind his back, but Alex ignored them. He had learned long ago that silence was stronger than anger. Instead of focusing on the negativity, he focused on doing everything better than expected. By the end of the day, his desk was neat, his reports were complete, and his computer files were organized. When Mr. Reed passed by again, he didn't say anything this time, just gave a quick glance before walking away. After work, Alex took the bus home. The ride felt longer than before. He looked out the window, thinking about the day. It hadn't gone the way he hoped, but it also hadn't broken him. When he reached home, his mother was waiting for him with a warm smile. "How was your first day?" she asked. He hesitated for a moment. "It was fine," he said with a tired smile. "Just a bit different." She looked at him kindly. "Different is good sometimes. You'll find your place. Just don't lose your heart in the process." He nodded, her words settling in his mind like a quiet promise. That night, as he lay in bed, he thought about what respect really meant. It wasn't about clothes or appearances. It was about how you treated people and how you carried yourself when no one was watching. He promised himself that no matter how others saw him, he would stay true to who he was. The next morning, he arrived early again. The office was still quiet when he walked in. He used the extra time to look through some files and noticed several issues that hadn't been fixed for weeks: wrong data entries, missing documents, and unfinished reports. It was clear the team had been careless. He didn't want to interfere, but something inside him couldn't ignore it, so he began to fix them quietly. He didn't tell anyone what he was doing. He just wanted to help things work better. By the time others started coming in, he had already sorted dozens of files and corrected several errors. No one noticed, but that didn't matter. He wasn't doing it for praise. He just believed in doing the right thing, even when no one was watching. Throughout the day, he continued to work with quiet focus. Mr. Reed passed by a few times, giving quick orders to other employees, barely acknowledging Alex. But Alex noticed something. The manager seemed constantly stressed. He was juggling too many things at once, and when someone made a mistake, he became irritated. Alex understood that kind of pressure. He'd seen it before in smaller jobs, leaders carrying more than they could handle. Later in the day, during a short meeting, the manager made a presentation. Things didn't go smoothly. Some reports were missing, and the figures on the slides didn't match. Alex noticed it immediately. He wanted to help, but he didn't want to interrupt. After the meeting, he quietly approached Mr. Reed and said, "Sir, I think there might be a mistake in the sales report from last quarter. If you'd like, I can check the data and fix it." Mr. Reed looked surprised for a moment, then shrugged. "You? Sure, go ahead if you've got time. Just don't make it worse." Alex nodded and went back to his desk. It took him hours to go through the files, but he finally found the error, a small formula mistake that had caused the numbers to display incorrectly. He fixed it, double-checked everything, and printed the corrected report. When he handed it to Mr. Reed later, the manager glanced at it and frowned. "You did this?" "Yes, sir. The error was in the formula. It should be fine now." Mr. Reed looked at the report again. The figures were accurate this time. He didn't say thank you, but he didn't mock him either. He just gave a short nod and walked away. It wasn't much, but for Alex it felt like progress. When the day ended, Alex left the office quietly, just like before. But this time his steps felt a little lighter. He knew he hadn't made a big impression yet, but deep down, he believed something was shifting. Every small act of effort, every quiet correction was building toward something bigger, even if no one else could see it yet. As he waited for the bus that evening, the city lights reflected in his tired eyes. He thought about how strange life could be. Yesterday he was the new guy being laughed at. Today he was slowly proving his worth. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he felt a quiet strength growing inside him. It wasn't anger or pride, it was belief. Belief that one day his hard work would speak louder than his clothes ever could. He looked up at the night sky and whispered softly to himself, "Just keep going. One day they'll see." And with that, he boarded the bus home, unaware that in just 2 days, everything in his life and in that office was about to change forever. The next morning, Alex woke up before his alarm rang. He lay in bed for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling, thinking about his first day at work. The laughter, the whispers, the sarcastic comment from his manager, all of it replayed in his head like a slow movie. But instead of feeling bitter, he felt determined. He wanted to show them that a person's worth isn't defined by clothes or background. It's defined by effort. He got dressed carefully again, choosing the same shirt and jacket, freshly ironed. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean. Before leaving, he looked at his mother, who was busy preparing breakfast. She smiled at him and said, "Remember, son, you don't have to prove yourself to everyone. Just do your best. The right people will see it." Those words gave him strength. When he reached the office, it was quieter than usual. Only a few early workers were at their desks. He liked those calm moments before the noise and rush began. He turned on his computer and started checking through the files he had worked on yesterday. The numbers, the charts, the folders, they were slowly starting to make sense to him. He was beginning to understand how things worked in this company, and also how disorganized everything was. The company looked fancy from the outside, but behind the scenes, it was a mess. Reports were incomplete, emails were ignored, and different departments weren't talking to each other. It was like everyone was working alone instead of as a team. Alex didn't have any authority to fix those things, but something inside him couldn't just sit still and watch. So he started to quietly sort out small problems one by one. If a file was mislabeled, he corrected it. If a report was missing a number, he found it. He stayed focused even when others didn't notice. Around mid-morning, Mr. Reed arrived, carrying his coffee and looking as confident as ever. The air around him seemed to change when he walked through the office. People straightened up, spoke politely, and pretended to be busy. He liked being in control, and everyone knew it. When he saw Alex working at his desk, he gave a quick glance and said, "You're early again. Trying to impress someone?" Alex smiled lightly. "Just trying to stay on top of things, sir." Mr. Reed raised an eyebrow, smirked slightly, and walked away without another word. By noon, the office was buzzing. Phones were ringing, people were moving around, and the stress in the air was thick. Alex noticed that the marketing department was struggling to prepare a presentation for an upcoming meeting with the board. Papers were scattered everywhere, and one of the staff members looked close to tears. He hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should step in. Then he walked over and quietly said, "Do you need help with the numbers? I'm pretty good with data." The woman looked at him, unsure. "I don't think you're supposed to touch these files. Mr. Reed wants everything done by his team." "I understand," Alex said gently. "But if you're short on time, I can help you sort and check the numbers. No one has to know. It'll just make your job easier." After a moment, she nodded. Together they worked through the spreadsheets, correcting small errors and organizing them neatly. By the time lunch rolled around, the files were clean and the presentation was almost ready. "Thank you," the woman said softly. "You just saved me from getting yelled at." Alex smiled. "It's okay. We're all on the same side, right?" He didn't realize that someone had been watching. Linda, the same kind colleague who had spoken to him yesterday. She had been observing him quietly all morning. Later, during lunch, she sat beside him again. "You're helping people even when they don't ask," she said. "That's rare in this place," he smiled shyly. "I just think if everyone worked together, things would run smoother." "There's a lot of talent here, but it feels like no one really connects." Linda nodded. "You're right. People here are scared to step out of line. They just follow orders." Alex looked thoughtful. Maybe that's why the system's broken. Too many people trying to protect themselves instead of fixing the problem. She looked at him with quiet admiration. There was something different about him. Calm, grounded, and thoughtful. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words carried meaning. After lunch, the day became even busier. There was talk that some top executives were visiting soon for an internal review. Everyone was nervous, especially Mr. Reed. He spent most of the afternoon pacing around, giving orders and checking files. His voice carried across the room as he barked instructions at people who were already overwhelmed. Alex watched quietly. He could see that the pressure was making everyone anxious. Mistakes were happening and tempers were rising. He decided to keep his head down and continue doing what he did best, fixing things quietly from the background. At one point, he overheard two employees complaining near the printer. "Reed's going to lose it when he sees the sales data," one whispered. "Half the files are missing. The backup drive's corrupted again." That caught Alex's attention. The missing sales data had been a problem since yesterday. Without it, the whole presentation would collapse. He had already noticed the issue when checking some of the shared folders earlier, but he hadn't mentioned it because he wasn't sure if it was his place. Now he knew it was important. He went back to his computer and started searching through the archives. It took him over an hour, but eventually he found a trail. Old email attachments with partial data. He pieced them together carefully, correcting errors along the way. When he was done, the full report was complete again. It wasn't part of his job, but he didn't care. He copied the file to a backup drive and labeled it clearly. Later in the afternoon, Mr. Reed came by looking frustrated. "Where's the updated sales file?" he asked loudly. No one answered. He turned to his team. "We have a board meeting tomorrow, and if those numbers aren't fixed by morning, we're all in trouble." Alex stood up slowly. "Excuse me, sir. I think I have it." Mr. Reed looked at him in disbelief. "You? How would you have it?" "I noticed some missing files earlier, so I tried to rebuild them from the email archives," Alex said carefully.
"I double-checked everything."
"It should be complete now." Mr. Reed took the flash drive from him and plugged it into his laptop. As he scrolled through the data, his expression changed from irritation to surprise. The report was not only accurate but also cleaner than before. He glanced at Alex, his tone a little less sharp this time. "You did all this on your own?" "Yes, sir," Alex replied simply. "I just wanted to make sure everything was ready for tomorrow." Mr. Reed didn't say thank you, but for the first time, he didn't mock him either. He nodded slightly and said, "Good. Leave it with me." Then he walked away. Alex sat back down, feeling a quiet sense of accomplishment. He didn't need praise. He just wanted to help. But he didn't realize that this small action was about to set off a chain of events that would change everything. By the end of the day, people started noticing small improvements. Files that were once missing were now organized. Reports that used to take hours to find were suddenly easy to access. Some employees wondered who was behind it, but Alex never said a word. Before leaving, Linda stopped by his desk. "You're doing more for this office than anyone realizes," she said kindly. Alex smiled. "Maybe, but it's not about credit. It's about doing what's right." As he left the office, the sky was painted with orange and gold. He walked to the bus stop with tired feet but a light heart. For the first time, he felt like he was finally starting to belong. Not because people accepted him, but because he was making a difference. That night, he stayed up late at his small kitchen table, sketching out ideas on paper. He thought about all the problems the company faced: poor communication, messy data, stressful work culture, and how they could be improved. He wasn't a leader, at least not yet, but he had ideas that could help people work better and feel respected. He didn't know that someone else had already started noticing him, one of the senior board members, who had quietly been reviewing the improvements happening in the office. Alex's name had come up more than once. The next morning, Alex walked into the office as usual, not knowing that the board review was happening earlier than scheduled. People were running around nervously trying to prepare. Mr. Reed was shouting instructions, his voice sharp and impatient. When the board members arrived, everyone straightened their backs. The air was thick with tension. Mr. Reed began his presentation confidently, showing the data Alex had helped fix. Everything was going smoothly until one of the executives asked a question about the system efficiency. Mr. Reed hesitated, not knowing the answer. That's when Alex's quiet preparation, all his late-night efforts, would soon come to light. But for now, he sat silently at his desk, unaware that his quiet work was about to put him in the spotlight in a way no one, especially Mr. Reed, could have imagined. He looked around the office, the same people who once laughed, now tense and worried. He smiled faintly, whispering to himself, "Just keep doing your best." And as the boardroom doors closed behind the executives, fate was already writing the next chapter of his life, one that would take him from being the most underestimated man in the office to someone everyone would look up to. The next morning felt different. The usual quiet office had turned into a scene of panic. Papers were scattered on desks, printers were running nonstop, and people rushed from one corner to another. The board review had arrived earlier than anyone expected. Alex walked in calmly, holding his old briefcase, unaware of the chaos waiting for him. The moment he stepped in, he noticed worried faces everywhere. Someone whispered, "The system crashed again." Another person was near tears, trying to print files that wouldn't open. He placed his things on his desk and looked around. "What happened?" he asked Linda, who was pacing back and forth. "The network went down. The files for the presentation are gone," she said anxiously. "Mr. Reed is losing his mind. The board members are already in the conference room." Alex blinked, trying to take it all in. The same files he had fixed yesterday and all gone. He felt a cold wave in his stomach. Without those reports, the company's entire meeting would fall apart. Meanwhile, inside the conference room, Mr. Reed was trying his best to stay calm. The board members, dressed in dark suits, sat around the table waiting. One of them checked his watch impatiently. "We were told the updated performance report would be ready," he said. Yes, of course," Mr. Reed replied nervously. "We're just having a minor technical delay." "Minor?" another board member asked, raising an eyebrow. "This is the third time this month we've had technical issues. Maybe the problem isn't the system." The words made Mr. Reed's throat tighten. He gave a forced smile. "Please give me just 5 minutes," he said, before quickly stepping out of the room. He spotted Alex near the desks and rushed toward him. "You! The files you gave me yesterday, do you still have them?" Alex stood up quickly. "Yes, sir. I made a backup copy on my flash drive. Everything's there." Mr. Reed's eyes widened. "Where is it?" "In my bag," Alex said, pulling it out. "Give it to me." "Now," Mr. Reed ordered, his voice trembling. Alex handed it over without a word. Mr. Reed didn't even say thank you before running back to the conference room. Inside, he plugged in the flash drive and the presentation came to life on the big screen. Charts, figures, and reports all perfectly in place. The tension in the room slowly faded. The board members leaned forward, impressed. "Well," one of them said, "it looks like someone finally got things under control." Mr. Reed smiled nervously, trying to catch his breath. "Yes, we've been working hard," he said, pretending everything was planned. The meeting continued smoothly for a while. The data looked solid, the graphs were clear, and the progress reports were detailed. Everything was going well until one of the senior board members, a calm, older man with sharp eyes, asked a question. "These numbers are accurate," he said, "but I'm curious about who prepared this version. The structure is different, cleaner. It's not our usual format." Mr. Reed froze for a second, then smiled. Yes, I've been revising our reporting system." The older man tilted his head slightly, clearly unconvinced. "Interesting," he said. "Could you explain the logic behind the categorization here?" "It's quite intelligent, cuts through the usual confusion." Mr. Reed hesitated. "Well, it's based on some new internal methods we're developing." The board members exchanged glances. They could sense he wasn't being entirely truthful. Alex was sitting outside, unaware of what was being discussed inside. He continued to work quietly at his desk, fixing small issues in the company's shared folders. He didn't need credit. He just wanted things to work properly. Meanwhile, the meeting went on for almost an hour. When it ended, the board members left the room, some of them talking quietly. The older man, the one who had asked the questions, stopped near the door and spoke softly to his assistant. "Find out who actually created that report," he said. It didn't come from Reed. After the meeting, Mr. Reed came out looking exhausted but relieved. The company had been saved for now. Employees clapped quietly as he walked by, thinking he had handled everything perfectly. But deep down, Reed knew the truth. The only reason the meeting didn't turn into a disaster was because of that young employee he had laughed at on his first day. He walked past Alex's desk, slowing down for a moment. Alex looked up and gave a polite nod. "Did everything go well, sir?" he asked. Mr. Reed paused. "Yes," he said shortly. "It went fine." He wanted to say thank you but couldn't bring himself to. His pride wouldn't let him. The rest of the day went by quietly. People returned to their routines and the panic faded. But something had changed. Whispers started spreading around the office about how the files were recovered, and someone mentioned Alex's name. By evening, when most employees had left, Alex was still at his desk. He was checking through the system to make sure no other data had been lost. That's when the phone on his desk rang. It was the receptionist. "Alex," she said, "the head office just called. Someone from the board wants to meet you tomorrow morning. They said your name was mentioned during the review." He froze for a second. "Me, are you sure?" "Yes," she said. "They asked for you specifically." After hanging up, Alex sat quietly for a moment. He couldn't believe it. Why would the board want to see him? He wasn't even a senior employee. Maybe they wanted to ask about the reports, or maybe he had made a mistake without realizing it. The thought made him nervous. When he finally got home, he told his mother about it. She smiled warmly and said, "Maybe it's your hard work paying off." He tried to smile, but his mind was racing. "I don't know, Mom, what if it's something bad?" She laughed softly. "If it were bad, they wouldn't be calling you to the head office. You've done nothing wrong." That night, he barely slept. He kept imagining different scenarios, some good, some not so good. But one thing was clear. Something important was about to happen. The next morning, Alex dressed carefully again. His clothes were the same, but he stood a little taller this time. He carried himself with quiet confidence. When he arrived at the head office, he was escorted to a waiting area with glass walls and soft lighting. Everything looked expensive and polished. He sat on the edge of the couch, clutching his folder nervously. After a few minutes, a kind-looking woman came out and said, "They're ready for you." He followed her into a large conference room. Sitting at the head of the table was the same older man from yesterday's meeting. He greeted Alex with a warm smile. "Please sit down," the man said. "You must be Alex." "Yes, sir," Alex replied quietly. "I'm Harold," the man said. "I'm one of the founders of this company. I was told you were the one who organized the data and saved the presentation yesterday." "Is that true?" Alex hesitated. "I only did what I could, sir. The files were missing, so I rebuilt them from backups. I just wanted to help." Mr. Harold leaned back in his chair, studying him carefully. "You rebuilt weeks of lost data overnight?" "I just stayed late and fixed what I could," Alex said humbly. "It wasn't that hard once I figured out where the mistakes were." The man smiled. "You sound modest. But what you did wasn't small. You prevented a crisis, and I'm told this isn't the first time you've fixed things quietly." Alex looked down, slightly embarrassed. "I just try to do my job right, sir." There was a moment of silence. Then Mr. Harold said, "Tell me something, Alex. What would you change about this company if you had the power to?" The question caught him off guard. He thought for a moment before answering. "I think people here are talented, sir, but they're scared. Everyone works alone because they're afraid to make mistakes. There's no real teamwork. If people respected each other more, and if mistakes were seen as chances to improve instead of reasons to blame, things would be different." The room went quiet. Mr. Harold nodded slowly, clearly impressed. "That's a very wise observation," he said. "And you're absolutely right." He stood up, walked around the table, and extended his hand. "Alex, I'd like you to come back tomorrow morning. There's something important I'd like to discuss with you, something that could change your future here." Alex shook his hand, still trying to process what was happening. "Yes, sir. I'll be here." As he left the building, his heart was pounding. He had no idea what Mr. Harold meant, but something deep inside told him that this was the beginning of something big. When he got home that evening, his mother noticed the light in his eyes. "How did it go?" she asked. He smiled for the first time in days. "I don't know yet," he said, "but I think something good is coming." And as he lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, he couldn't help but think of how strange life could be. 2 days ago, he was the man people laughed at for wearing old clothes. Now the founder of the company wanted to meet him again, not as an employee, but as someone who mattered. He didn't know it yet. But tomorrow would bring the moment that would turn his quiet journey into something far greater. A moment that would surprise not only the people at the office, but also himself. The next morning, Alex woke up earlier than usual. His mind had been restless all night. He kept thinking about the unexpected invitation from the company's head office. Why did the board member want to see him? Did he do something wrong? Or maybe they were just impressed by the report he'd made. The thought of it all made him both excited and nervous. He wore the same simple clothes he always did. He didn't have expensive suits or designer shoes. His shirt was clean, his shoes polished, and his hair neatly combed. As he looked at himself in the mirror, he whispered, "Just be yourself." That was something his mother always told him. When he reached the head office, the building looked much grander than the small branch where he worked. The reception area was quiet and the air smelled faintly of coffee and new furniture. The receptionist smiled politely and guided him toward the meeting room on the top floor. Alex's palms were slightly sweaty. He could feel his heart beating faster with each step. He reminded himself to stay calm and keep his composure. He wasn't here to prove anyone wrong. He was here to learn what this was about. When he entered the meeting room, he was surprised to see the same elderly man from the previous day, the one who had asked him several questions during the board meeting. The man stood up and smiled warmly. "Good morning, Alex," he said in a calm voice. "Thank you for coming." Alex nodded politely. "Good morning, sir. Thank you for inviting me." The man gestured for him to sit. "Please have a seat. I wanted to speak with you privately. My name is Harold. I'm the founder of this company." Alex froze for a moment. He had read about the company's founder in their orientation material, but never thought he would meet him face to face. "It's an honor to meet you, sir," he said sincerely. Mr. Harold smiled. "The honor is mine. Yesterday, during the presentation, you showed remarkable work. Not only did you prepare everything that your department should have done, but you also presented it with honesty and humility. That caught my attention." Alex felt his cheeks grow warm. "I was just doing my part, sir. I didn't want the team to look unprepared." "That's exactly what impressed me," Mr. Harold replied. "Most people in your position would have stayed silent, waiting for someone else to take responsibility. But you stepped forward even when others were panicking." There was a short silence. The sound of the city traffic faintly echoed through the glass walls. Mr. Harold leaned forward slightly and asked, "Tell me, Alex, what made you want to join this company?" Alex thought for a moment. "Honestly, sir, I joined because I wanted to learn. I grew up watching my parents work hard just to make ends meet. They taught me that no job is small if you do it with heart. I wanted to be somewhere where hard work actually matters." Mr. Harold listened carefully, nodding. "That's a rare mindset these days," he said. "I've run this company for over 30 years. I've seen many people come and go, some talented, some smart, but very few who truly understand the value of respect and sincerity." Alex stayed quiet, unsure what to say. Mr. Harold continued, "When I started this company, I was just like you. I didn't have money for fancy clothes or connections. I was laughed at too. People underestimated me because I didn't fit their idea of success, but that's what made me build something that values people over appearances." Alex felt a lump in his throat. He could relate to every word. He remembered his first day when everyone, including his manager, had laughed at his old suit. It had stung deeply, but hearing these words now felt like a quiet redemption. Mr. Harold stood up and walked toward the window. "You see, I've been thinking of stepping down soon. I'm looking for someone who can bring real change, not through power, but through empathy and understanding." He turned around and looked at Alex. "Someone like you." Alex blinked in disbelief. "Sir, I'm honored, but I'm just a new employee. I've only been here for a few days." Mr. Harold smiled gently. "Leadership isn't about time. It's about the ability to see clearly when others can't. You have that. I've already spoken to the board, and we've decided to promote you to acting CEO of the branch you're currently in. You'll start immediately." For a moment, Alex didn't know how to react. It felt surreal, almost like a dream he was afraid to wake up from. "Sir, I don't even know what to say," he managed to whisper. "You don't have to say anything," Mr. Harold said kindly. "Just promise me you'll stay true to yourself. Lead with the same honesty and humility you've shown so far." Alex nodded, still trying to take it all in. "I will, sir. I promise I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Mr. Harold said, smiling as he extended his hand. "Welcome to your new role, Alex." They shook hands, and for the first time in his life, Alex felt truly seen. Not for how he looked, but for who he was. After the meeting, Alex sat quietly in the lobby for a few minutes, trying to process everything. People were walking around, busy with their work, completely unaware that the young man sitting there had just been offered one of the biggest opportunities of his life. On his way out, he looked up at the tall building again. It didn't feel intimidating anymore. It felt like a place where he belonged, where his hard work and values had finally found meaning. That evening, Alex didn't go out to celebrate. Instead, he went home, sat on his small balcony, and called his mother. When she answered, he told her everything, from the laughter on his first day to the unexpected promotion. His mother was silent for a few seconds. Then her voice trembled with pride. "I told you, son, the world notices those who keep their hearts pure. You did good." Alex smiled softly. "I just hope I can make a difference, Mom." "You already have," she said. "Now go and make that office a place where no one else feels the way you did on your first day." Those words stayed in his mind long after the call ended. The next morning, as he prepared for his new role, he didn't rush to buy new clothes or accessories. He decided to wear the same clean, modest outfit, the one he wore on his first day. It reminded him of where he came from and how far he had come. When he arrived at the office, everyone was surprised to see him back so soon. Some whispered that maybe he was there to apologize or hand in his resignation. Mr. Reed, the manager who had laughed at him, looked uneasy but tried to act indifferent. Alex greeted everyone politely, as he always did, and asked them to gather for a short meeting in the main hall. The staff looked confused but followed. When everyone had gathered, Alex took a deep breath and said, "Good morning, everyone. I have something important to share." The room fell quiet. Mr. Reed crossed his arms, pretending not to care. Alex continued, "Yesterday, I had a meeting with Mr. Harold, our founder. He has given me a responsibility I didn't expect. Starting today, I'll be serving as the acting CEO for this branch." The silence that followed was heavy. Every pair of eyes turned toward him in disbelief. Mr. Reed's face turned pale. Alex went on, "I know this might come as a surprise, but I want you to know something. I don't plan to change everything overnight. I only want to create a place where everyone feels valued, a place where people are respected for their effort, not their appearance." There was a quiet murmur among the employees. Some smiled. Others looked thoughtful. Even Mr. Reed couldn't find words. Alex finished by saying, "I've been where you are. I know what it feels like to be ignored or laughed at. But that stops today. We're all going to move forward. Together." He smiled gently and thanked everyone for their time. After the meeting, a few employees walked up to congratulate him. Others simply nodded respectfully. For the first time, Alex noticed something new in their eyes. Not pity or amusement, but genuine respect. Mr. Reed slowly approached him and said in a low voice, "Alex, I didn't expect this. I guess I was wrong about you." Alex looked at him calmly. "It's okay. Let's just focus on making things better for everyone." Mr. Reed nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Later that day, Alex sat in his new office, the same office that used to belong to the man who once mocked him. He looked out of the window, taking in the view, and smiled to himself. It wasn't about revenge or pride. It was about proving that kindness and patience can change even the hardest hearts. As the sun began to set, the office lights dimmed, and a quiet peace filled the room. Alex leaned back in his chair, feeling grateful, not for the title, but for the journey that brought him here. He knew this was just the beginning, but he also knew one thing for sure. He would lead not from a place of power, but from a place of understanding, and that was something no position or suit could ever define. When Alex walked into the office that morning, the place felt completely different. The air that once carried whispers and judgment now carried curiosity. Every pair of eyes followed him as he made his way to his desk, calm and confident, yet still the same humble man everyone had seen just days ago. He didn't wear an expensive suit or a shiny tie. His clothes were simple, just like before, but the way he carried himself had changed. There was a quiet strength in his eyes now, something that made even the loudest talkers fall silent when he passed. Mr. Reed, who had once been so quick to mock, stood near his office door pretending to read some papers, but his hands trembled slightly. He wasn't sure whether to greet Alex or stay quiet. When Alex finally looked his way, he gave him a polite nod and said, "Good morning." "Morning," Mr. Reed replied, his voice barely steady. A few employees whispered, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Some still couldn't believe that the man who had been laughed at was now the acting CEO. Others felt embarrassed, remembering their own laughter and side comments from his first day. Alex, however, carried no bitterness. He didn't come to take revenge or prove anyone wrong. He came to build something better, a workplace where people would think twice before judging someone for how they looked or where they came from. After settling into his new office, Alex called for a short team meeting. The staff gathered around hesitantly, unsure what to expect. The atmosphere was heavy, a mix of guilt, confusion, and nervous curiosity. Alex stood at the front of the room and began speaking with a calm smile. "I know the past few days have been surprising for all of us. Things have changed fast, and I want to make something clear from the start. I'm not here to make anyone feel small. I'm here to help us grow together." He paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. "I've been on the other side of things. I know what it feels like to be laughed at, to feel like you don't belong. But I also know what it means to stay kind even when it's hard. From now on, I want this office to be a place where people are respected for their effort, not their outfit or background." No one spoke. But the silence was no longer tense, and it was thoughtful. Alex continued, "We'll start by changing how we treat each other. Every opinion matters. Every job, no matter how small, plays a part in our success. If we lift each other up instead of tearing each other down, this office can become one of the best in the company." His tone wasn't commanding. It was sincere. The employees could feel it. It wasn't the speech of someone trying to impress. It was the voice of someone who had lived through what he was saying. When the meeting ended, the room was quiet, but something in the air had shifted. People started talking softly to each other, not gossip but real conversation. Even Mr. Reed lingered behind after everyone left. "Alex," he said, his voice hesitant, "I wanted to say, I was wrong. About you, about everything. You didn't deserve the way I treated you." Alex looked at him not with anger but with calm understanding. "We all make mistakes," he said gently. "What matters is that we learn from them." Mr. Reed lowered his head. "Thank you for not holding it against me." "There's no point in holding grudges," Alex replied. "We've got work to do, is real work." That moment marked the beginning of change. Over the next few weeks, Alex started observing how the office ran. He noticed who worked quietly without being noticed, who carried the extra weight when others slacked, and who stayed behind after hours just to make sure things were done right. He began implementing small changes, assigning clear roles, rewarding consistent effort, and creating an open-door policy where anyone could share ideas or problems directly with him. People were skeptical at first, but slowly things began to improve. The once gloomy office started to feel alive again. Conversations shifted from complaints to ideas. Employees who had once kept to themselves began smiling more. Even those who had laughed at Alex on his first day now admired the way he treated everyone with the same respect. From the janitor to the top accountant, Mr. Reed, too, began to change. He stopped making sarcastic remarks and started listening more. He worked harder than ever, almost as if trying to make up for the past. Alex noticed the effort and encouraged him privately, saying, "The best apology is change, and I can already see that in you." Under Alex's leadership, productivity rose quickly. Reports that used to be late were now on time. Clients started noticing the improvement and praised the team's communication and efficiency. For the first time in a long while, people felt proud of their workplace. One afternoon, a few weeks later, the company's founder, Mr. Harold, visited the branch unannounced. The office buzzed with energy as people greeted him warmly. He spent time walking around, chatting with employees and observing the positive atmosphere. Finally, he walked into Alex's office, smiling broadly. "You've done something remarkable here," he said. "I can feel the change the moment I stepped in." Alex smiled modestly. "It wasn't just me, sir. It was everyone. They only needed a little trust and encouragement." Mr. Harold nodded. "That's the sign of a true leader and one who lifts others up. I'm proud of you." Later that day, as Alex was about to leave, one of the new interns approached him shyly. "Sir," she said, "I wanted to thank you. I was really nervous when I joined because I don't have fancy clothes or much experience. But everyone here has been so kind. It means a lot." Alex smiled warmly. "Don't worry about what you wear or where you come from. Just give your best. That's all that matters." The young intern nodded, visibly relieved. As Alex watched her walk away, he couldn't help but think about his first day. The nervousness, the whispers, the laughter. How strange life could be. The same office that once made him feel small was now a place where others felt safe and valued. A few months later, during a company-wide meeting, the branch's performance was highlighted as the best in the region. When Mr. Harold announced that, everyone stood and cheered, not just for the success but for the spirit that had made it possible. That evening, the team organized a small celebration at a nearby cafe. There was laughter, light music, and a feeling of togetherness that hadn't existed before. Even Mr. Reed joined in, raising a toast to Alex. "To the man who reminded us what real leadership looks like," he said with a smile. "You showed us that respect and kindness can do what fear never could." Everyone clapped and Alex smiled, though his eyes shone with quiet emotion. "It wasn't just me," he said. "It was all of us. I just believed we could do better, and you proved we could." As the evening went on, people shared memories of their early days in the company, laughing about old mistakes and celebrating how far they'd come. There was no trace of the cold, judgmental atmosphere that once filled the office. When Alex finally walked home that night, the city lights reflected softly on the pavement. He felt a deep sense of peace, not pride but gratitude. He thought about his mother's words, the struggles he had faced, and how everything had led to this moment. He didn't see his success as luck. He saw it as proof that staying true to your values, no matter how hard things get, always pays off in the end. Weeks turned into months, and the company continued to grow under his leadership. Other branches began adopting his approach, focusing more on people than numbers. Respect became the core of the company's culture. One morning, Alex found a small note on his desk. It wasn't signed. It simply read, "Thank you for changing this place. You've reminded us that every person matters." He smiled as he folded the note and kept it in his drawer. It wasn't an award or a title, but it meant more than anything else he had received. Years later, when people talked about the company's transformation, they often told the story of the humble man who came to work in a worn-out suit and ended up leading with heart. They said he never raised his voice, never showed off his power, and never forgot where he came from. And whenever someone new joined the office, the older employees would tell them, "Remember, never judge anyone by how they look. You never know. They might just be your next CEO." The story became more than just company history. It became a quiet lesson that spread far beyond the walls of that office. A lesson about humility, respect, and the simple truth that kindness is strength. As for Alex, he never let success change who he was. He still greeted the cleaning staff by name, still shared lunch with the interns, and still wore his simple clothes with pride, because for him, true leadership wasn't about titles or wealth or appearances. It was about people, always people. And so the man who once walked in trembling with self-doubt walked out every evening with peace, knowing he had turned pain into purpose and laughter into lasting respect.